I'm using Excel as a demonstration about how to create a graph, since most people use Excel, unfortunately. Start with a blank workbook, and we need to zoom in here. So I'm going to create two categories here. We'll just say height in inches, and then age in years. You could put an S here for years. Not necessary. The unit actually is year, and grammatically we stick the S on the end if we need a plural of it, but it's not necessary to have the S there. I don't think I take off for that. I don't think I've taken off for that in the past. But I'm just going to make up numbers here. These are not the real ones, but just make up numbers. All right, so let's just pretend that those are actual heights for this person up to 7 years old. And so now I need to create a graph of this data. Now, one thing I can do is I can just highlight it. I don't have to highlight it beforehand, so why don't I start out not highlighting it just to show what happens. And I want to insert a chart. So specifically, I want to do a scatter plot, and I want to do the scatter plot in the upper left-hand corner. Now, I need to shrink this down some so that we can actually see it. If you'll notice, it automatically went to this data right here. It made the assumption. It doesn't always do that sometimes, especially if you have multiple columns. But however, we're going to need a proper title. We're going to need to have proper axes labeled. So we go over to Quick Layout and just click on the upper left hand, and that gives you what you need. Now, the question comes down to what is the dependent and what is the independent variable? Well, as I look at this, does your age depend upon your height, or does your height depend upon your age? Well, more likely, height depends upon age. So height is the dependent variable. Age is what is called the independent variable. So a plot would be height versus age. That would be the proper title. So in the lab instructions, I would say plot height versus age. So that is the title. This is not a creativity contest. This is not a creative expression. This is very formatted how I want this done. Height versus age. That is the title. That is what I would ask you to find. Now notice I do not have units here. I do not have units in my title. I would only put units in the title if that was crucial to what I was actually testing. It is crucial to how to display the information, but it's not part of what I'm testing. And so height versus age. Now, the vertical axis here should be the dependent variable. It is height, space, open parenthesis, unit, close parenthesis. That is the proper format. Over here, axis title, I'm double clicking on it, actually multiple times. That's age, space, parenthesis, year. And I see I made a mistake over here because my height is in inches and not centimeters. So why don't I put in height, put in the proper units? Are these plotted correctly? Because frankly, Excel does not read your mind about what is what. And so if I think about this, my age goes up to 7 and my height goes up to 48. And so it looks like my height data is down here because this goes up well past 48. My age data looks like it's right here, but that's backwards. So we need to correct that. So I'm going to right click on one of the data points. Notice that all the data points are highlighted here. So I right click and go to select data. And I need to edit. So the series name right here is just the title up front, and that's how it knew age in the initial title. And what I want to do is I want to basically flip my A and B around. So I can do it one way. One, I can just type out and just put a B there and put a B there. Notice that the data automatically corrected because that's what Excel does. Here, I want to make this A. And I just changed those to A's. I can write it in lowercase. It's going to automatically make it uppercase, so it's not case sensitive. And so now we look, and my age goes out to 8 on the axis here, and it goes up to 60 on the vertical axis. And so the data seems like it is much more fitting. Another way that I could have done that, again, I'm going to right-click on the data point, go down to Select Data, Edit. If I wanted to, I could have just highlighted that, deleted it, and then just highlight what I wanted, it'll automatically populate with B. And the other way I could have done it is, again, I want to start with a clean slate there. I could have just clicked on that one. It basically gives you the one row that I want. I highlight what the data set of data. I click on this and it takes me to the other pop-up and click OK. OK. Next thing I need to do is add a trend line. So I'm going to right click and come down to add trend line. Now I do want to point out that Excel has always written trend line as a single word. I've worked with Excel back in probably the 90s. But if you go into Microsoft Word and type in trend line as a single word, it will count it as a misspelling. So there's my trend line right there. Now I have only one set of data here, so I do not need the legend over here because it's clear what it is. It's height versus age. So I'm just going to delete that, give myself a little bit more room. On my trend line, I need to add some information here. So I'm going to right click and go to Format Trend Line. And we get this pop-up over here. There are other ways that it will come up. Sometimes it comes up mysteriously, as was demonstrated in the parts that got edited out of this. It should come out as a default on linear. And so we want to keep, but double check that just to make sure that it didn't mysteriously give you something else. So we want a linear trend line for almost everything that we do in this course. And then come down here, display equation on chart, display R squared value. That is information that you want. So we have that. So now I can move this to some place more convenient. So there's not an overlap of line or points and this set. If I need to change the number of decimal points here, I can do that by, if I just click on the box. I don't want to click inside it. I want to click on the box and then come over to the graph information over there, number, and then now I can set the number of decimal places. Notice that it automatically changed. We definitely don't want 2 decimal places. If I go to 4 decimal places, we're now at 4 decimal places right here. Sometimes it will give you 1 decimal place, sometimes it'll give you 2, especially if you're dealing with exponents, it'll give you 2 significant figures, or sometimes even 1 significant figure. It is really frustrating. You want definitely more than 1 significant figure. For example, if this were 1 significant figure, this slope would go from almost 4.5 to 4, and that could have a drastic effect on your analysis. I've seen people who take the incredibly liberal rounding that Excel sometimes does and end up with an answer that is impossible, whereas had they gone out some couple more decimal places or a couple more significant figures, they would have actually had a reasonable answer. And you can't change the number of decimal places for one of these numbers and not the others. At least I don't know how to do it without physically going in and typing in text. But that is a graph with one set of data.